It's against the law in South Carolina for a minor to play pinball. You hear me? If you're a minor, you cannot play pinball in South Carolina. Who is playing pinball in South fucking Carolina? Who is playing pinball in South Carolina? What are the pinball machines in South Carolina for? Oh, kids can't play those. Sorry, no kids can play those. Okay. Hey, Buck, you could play. Hey, Buck. Buck's a good shooter. That's that state. Next state over says a smear is a child. So you might have a smear on a napkin and you just say, that's a child. That smear is a child. That smear counts as a child. Okay. Smear counts as a child. And you can't play pinball. Make sure that smear, if it goes to South Carolina, make sure it doesn't play pinball. Who plays pinball in South Carolina? What do they say next? Hula hoops are banned for all under 35. Hula hoops are banned. Those yo-yos are only for seniors. Welcome to the program. 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 You're listening to the Cruel and Unusual Sit-Down podcast. Pew, pew. Cannabis is a big deal now. You see a lot of cannabis. Marijuana. We used to just call it weed, pot. When I was growing up, we called it pot. That's what my parents called it, pot. I came to know the other names later, but I knew it as pot originally. One time I told my grandma that we were going to go get some pot. And my grandma didn't know anything, and my grandpa had no clue. He was like a German. He had no idea. I don't even think he was from this country, but he had no clue what pot was, and she didn't know what it was. But you're not supposed to say pot around grandparents back then. Nowadays, it's called what it is. It's cannabis. Everybody has it. So now it's a little bit different, because back then, if you got dirt weed, I know this because I was growing up, and I constantly heard. I sometimes would hear complaints about the quality of the pot. So they called it potatoes. Hey, we're gonna get some of those potatoes. A guy would come over with a briefcase full of 1 ounce bags, rolled up, pretty big. I never saw bags like that when I was growing up. We would see the little dime bags. I knew a dime bag fairly early. But then quarter bags, that was a thing for a while. Quarter bags. Oh, look, it's a quarter bag. I knew quarter bags from the age of 4. And then I started seeing the ounce bags, and that's when I thought, that's the ones I like. They're perfect size, 1 ounce bags. These are bricks. These are when they were bricks. They had to break them up. I saw them break them up on a table. They took like 1,000,000 tons of it and broke it all up with hammers and stuff. Stuck it in a bag. So this guy would come over with a whole briefcase full of them, of potatoes, they called them. And then it was known that anyone could get those potatoes. Pretty much anyone that came to our house would be able to get those potatoes. They could call too and get the same potatoes. But then it would be orchestrated through my parents. So that was pretty neat. It was a potato policy we had, and they called it pot. Well, now it's everywhere. So back then, if you got a bad thing, you would just complain about it while they're smoking it. They would say, this is dirt weed. They would say, this stuff is old. Look at this. It's dusty. I think I see dust on it. This is old. This is fucking old. It tastes like dill. It tastes like dill pickle or something. And, hey, this isn't fucking right. This isn't the right amount. Weigh it. So they weigh it and they go, oh my God. This thing This thing is light. Oh my fucking God, this thing has been pinched. It's been pinched. They would say it. Hey, that bag has been pinched. Hey, you know that potato I got? It was pinched. Hey, well, when I gave it to you, it was a full potato. Nope, it was pinched. It would be pinched. So what that would mean, I guess, is the guy that brings the briefcase full of potatoes would take a bud for himself out of every bag. I guess that's what that meant. Pretty common procedure. It happened, and there was no regulating of it, and no one even knew what. They just assumed that what you get is what you get. But my parents were sticklers. They would say, nope, that was pinched, and so now you're going to replace that amount of what was pinched, because that's the potato policy. And everyone would say, we will not buy dirt weed. We said, look, we want good buds. We want skunk buds or pine. If you got sinsemilla, that's fine. We prefer sinsemilla. That's how they said it, sinsemilla. We want sense. Get some sense, man. Hey, you got some of that sense? Hey, they got some more of that sense, they would say. Hey, did you hear about that sense? Yeah, what's that? The sinsemilla doesn't have seeds. It doesn't have seeds? What? Doesn't have seeds. They would say, the sinsemilla doesn't have seeds. What? What do you do? How do you... It's really easy. You don't even have to sort out the seeds. The seeds are trouble back then. Seeds were a lot of trouble. I remember that one of my uncles told him, I guess he was playing a trick on him, and he said, yeah, you can smoke it with the seeds. And everyone was immediately aware that they were like, I don't think that's right. But he said, no, you can do it. I've done it. I was in Vietnam. He said we did it in Vietnam because we had to be quick. And he wasn't in Vietnam. But people don't know. And so they lit it up, and it smelled shitty. I remember as a kid, I was like, that doesn't smell like good weed to me. That smells like shit. And also it's just crackling and popping, and it literally lit something on fire, sparkling out. Yeah. That happened back then, not anymore. But when you had a problem back then, you had no one to complain to. You would just talk about it with your friends later. And I would hear it all the time, and I would think, when they get together and smoke weed, you know what they do? They talk about smoking weed of the past. And I was like, I can kind of write a history of it. I'm like, well, they first got the Colombian. That's when they were really happy. I mean, whenever they get Colombian, they'll go, hey, that smells like Colombian right there. Hey, it does smell like Colombian. Everyone has to agree. And so there'll be pretty much a consensus on that topic. That was Colombian. And the guy who brought it is like, I don't know what it is. I think it comes from Canada. They said, nope, that's Colombian. And their little ounce potatoes. You couldn't complain. Nowadays you can though. There's actually customer service now. I worked for the customer service for cannabis, actually. That's why I brought it up. So now you get people calling in, and they're like, no, that bag I got the other day. No. Those buds, those was popcorn buds. And those trichomes don't look too milky right there. And I was also noticing that some of the keef was missing. And you know what? That ain't Gary Payton. You know what? That's too choky to be Gary Payton. You telling me that's Gary Payton? That ain't Gary Payton. And then they would say, that ain't Gary Payton. I can tell you right now that ain't Gary Payton. Those buds. Those are tiny buds. You telling me that's Gary Payton? Those are tiny buds. When I get Gary Payton, that's when I get the fat buds. I understand. Look, the breed specifies that it has to have a certain size of the bud. You sending me, hey, these are popcorn buds. You're sending me popcorn. And I'd have to be like, well, no, there is a variation. It is mentioned in the ad, on the site. It does mention that there is a variation in bud size, and that is outside of the control of the corporation. Green Grow Corporation. That is outside the purview of Green Grow Corporation. But we're be glad to let you take our survey. Well, I'm not satisfied. That's just way too choky. You telling me that's Peyton? You trying to tell me you got Peyton and I choke my head off every time I take a hit? And I ain't taking no big hits here. These are tiny hits. I barely hit it. I put it in a one-hitter. I take the tiniest amount. I choke my head off. The neighbors are calling me. The neighbors are making fun of me out there. Yeah, I hear the neighbors out there. Every time they hear me talking or something, they start choking. They start pretend choking. They mocking my choking. Now, in the past when I got Gary Payton, hey, that's why I got it. Because right there, it wasn't so choky. I've come to expect that from the brand, from the strain, and the brand. Green Grow. Well, at Green Grow, we take your concerns very seriously. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you do because, the buds are too small, first of all. Also, hey, it's too hard to break up. I was trying to break it. I don't have one of those things. I don't buy things extra. I use my hands. And I should, hey, that's why I like Peyton too, because I could break it up. I think you're giving me some kind of a strain with some kind of, maybe you put some Mac with it or something. And that's why it's a little bit too sticky. I think that's what you did. And I think that's egregious because I come to expect a certain quality when I come to your organization for my cannabis. Well, all right, I will take that into consideration, and I want to thank you for calling. And do have a pleasant and enjoy your cannabis. No, I don't know what he said. He said something like that. Yeah, he didn't complain about it in the old days. You got what you got. So here's what happened on Christmas Eve. You always wonder, how did Christmas Eve get started? No one will ever answer. They keep it quiet. It's a secret. It's an open secret. It's one of those open secrets. Another one of those. Hope you know them all, by the way. You got to know them all. Don't just be sure to know them all. Open secret about Christmas Eve and many of the other Eves, but let's just start with Christmas Eve. With Christmas Eve, somebody said, hey, they said, why are you serving dinner tonight? What is all this dinner? And the person was like, I guess the leader of the house or the butler. Okay, the manager of the house. The manager of the manor home said, oh, well, it's Christmas. And they said, it's the 24th. It's the 24th. What do you mean it's Christmas? It can't be Christmas. It's the 24th. It's the 24th, not the 25th. Christmas is on the 25th. We celebrate Christmas Eve on the 25th. What do you mean it's the 25th? It's not Christmas. It's the 24th. What do you mean it's Christmas? It's the 24th. We celebrate Christmas on the 25th. We always celebrate Christmas every year on the 25th, the same day as Saturnalia. What are you doing to us? And the person said, no, I meant Christmas Eve, you stupid idiot. It's Christmas, you went into all that. I was talking about Christmas Eve. It's the day before. Remember? And they're like, well, I don't really remember. Yeah, because you never pay attention to church. That's why. They're talking about the liturgy the other day. And you were spaced out over there. It's in Latin. You got to keep up. Guy's like, I don't even know Latin. Okay, I guess so, yeah. That's how we got Christmas Eve. Same thing with, there's the other Eve. Is there another Eve? Easter Eve. Easter Eve. That's Good Friday. That's Good Saturday. Oh, it's Easter Eve, or is it Middle Saturday? Medium Saturday. Middling Saturday. Come out to our place on Middling Saturday. The day before. It's the day before. You could easily get it mixed up. It could happen. Over a lifetime, it's going to happen once to everyone. Even George Bush, the great president. George Bush, one of the greatest presidents. George Bush, one of the greatest ever presidents ever. I just call him George Bush. I just call him George Bush. If I want to refer to the President George Bush, I say President George Bush. If I want to refer to the President George W. Bush, I say President George W. Bush. I'm not one of these others. I don't even say the other thing. I just say President Bush, President George Bush. I can't even say President Bush. I forgot. Like, you can't say President Bush anymore. You have to make sure to say, no, President George Bush, and then they know. And then if you say George W. Bush, then you know it's the other one. That's his son. Did you know that? I was looking it up, and George W. Bush is actually President George W. Bush is the son of President George Bush. Isn't that a coincidence? And then they have like almost the same name, and that's his son. Isn't that weird? For all that to combine. So let me repeat that. I don't think some of you got that. President George W. Bush was president. Well, his father was president first. It was President George Bush. So they said one day, they were like, George Bush. They would said, Senator George Bush is now the president of the United States. And then we said, okay, I guess. And they said, yep, George Bush, president. And they kept saying, then after that, all they would say is, President George Bush, President George Bush. They say, President George Bush brandished a bag of cocaine today. President George Bush puked in the President George Bush puked in the Prime Minister's lap today, etc. Those are old references. Yeah, those are real references. Okay, so, but we know President George Bush. President George W. Bush is President George Bush's son, not his daughter. It's his son. President George W. Bush is the son of President Bush. Isn't that a coincidence? Imagine that. So imagine if your father was president and you had the same name as your father, except you had a different middle initial. So imagine that, okay, first. Okay, and I forgot what goes next. Remind me I forgot. Oh yeah, so you take George Bush, George W. Bush, and you combine them. No. What does it say about George Bush and George W. Bush if they both have the same name with a different middle initial, and then they happen to also be father and son? I didn't see that one coming. Father and son, too. I was like, it's starting to get weird because that's too many coincidences. And then they both became president. That's like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you're telling me, what a coincidence. What a worldwide coincidence. Are they born on the same day as well? I think they might be born on the exact same day. If someone told me that George W. Bush and George Bush were born on the same day, I would say, I believe you, based on what I've heard about the coincidences between these guys. Trump said that George W. Bush was president. He said, hey, George W. Bush was president. It's his fault. Gotta admit. You know, he's doing all that. Donald Trump, this is when they would go talk to him, but he's like the stupidest person you've ever heard in your life. He never said anything. Well, he never ever said anything after that either, but at this point, we just thought he was a mumbling, like that's what rich people are. That's what people who are in his business are. They don't really live among us or know. Maybe I try to give him some credit, but I'm not going to today. Forget this. He said George W. Bush is responsible for 9/11 because he was president and it's on his watch. That's what he did. He said it right away. That takes a lot of guts to be lying. I can't. Okay. What does that say? I don't know what it says yet, but there's got to be something there. Okay, so Trump. I have to go through this whole thing. All right, as I'm listening to it now with my own self, God, I got stuck with this stupid thing. I don't like thinking about this. Why did he say it? He comes out, he says, yeah, well, George W. Bush is the president, but that's not really true, is it? He's ignoring the fact that isn't he ignoring something? Does he actually think that the president is going to go kick the ball out of the way or something? That there's never going to be... Does that make sense? I don't... So then he was president. So then when he was president, did he take the same level of responsibility, though? That's where I was wondering. I started thinking, did he? And I found out that he did not actually take the same level of responsibility as he was willing to put upon George W. Bush. Instead, he blamed everyone else. George W. Bush, President George W. Bush, never blamed other people for his shortcomings. And neither did President George Bush, for that matter, no matter what the swine of the earth, like Trump might say. That's all I'd say. I think he's a swine. He looks exactly like a snake swine. If you see him sitting there, he looks like a snake. I mean, he literally looks like a pig with a snake's head. Kind of sticks out a little bit. Or it could be a frog's head. But you feel sad if you say, I give him a snake head just for it'd be a little bit more sad if it was a frog's head. But I think, okay, I'll give him a snake head. That way he might feel a little better. You don't want to offend the guy. He doesn't really know. I guess he doesn't know words, apparently. Unless he's working on some other level. Maybe he's in another language. Maybe there's another dialect that we don't and few can understand it. Nope. So that's it. So what was the two things? Okay, so I'm going to go back over the two things again. Okay, first of all, you have the Eve, yeah, Christmas Eve. They just threw that in there. Somebody made it up. They made a mistake, probably. And they sold it, too. They said, no, we have to go to church at midnight. They went down there. And they knocking on the door, They're like, yeah, we'll open the church up for midnight. Why not, And they started a tradition. And then they kept doing it. They said, yeah, that was a good idea, actually. We'll just add that on. Yeah, we could add that to it. Pretty soon we're going to have Christmas double Eve. Okay, that probably won't. Wait, Christmas? What if there was post-Christmas? Post-Christmas. Okay, post-Christmas. What? Now pay attention, everyone. Now look here. I signed up to ride the bull. Not to sit here chewing the cud with a bunch of chicken shit. I was watching a space launch. Whatever they're doing. Well, the one where something blows up or something. One time I was watching it. So they launched this thing. It goes up and it blows up. Further than they expected it, and it blows up. So then the whole group of people start cheering. Like they made it's a big success. And then they come out and they're like, oh yeah, it was what a big success this was. After the rocket blew up. That's what they're doing now. They just settle your expectations for you by... That's all you have to do. It'd be like if so let's say, if whoever lost, if the 49ers just came out right now and said, we consider it a success. What if they had cheered at the end of the game? We only lost by so many points. It was an overtime game. We never expected to get that far. But we're super happy. You know what? We didn't even expect to get to the Super Bowl. So we already won once we got there. So yeah, that's true, I guess. It's the most boring thing. It's the most boring event that you can go to is a space launch. Because there's no payoff. They just go away and that's it. I could see if they came back. Like you would be waiting for them to come back. And then they would say, look at all the gold we found or something. Or look at oh my God, we brought back all these diamonds, rubies, and emeralds. Or something. Something of value and something of interest. But that's not what ever happens. And then you talk to them and you say like, so you could just go to some of them nowadays it's just like some company that burns all the money up and doesn't care. They have no expectation of success. There's no oversight. So they just burn up money is what they're doing. And then they fake whether they have a success or not. thing ever. It's done now. It's a corporation doing it. Just some company takes it over now and burns up money shooting up into the sky. And you ask them, so you say, okay, good, all right. So what great technologies have we discovered by going into space? And so then they get kind of quiet. But then they'll probably just start telling you that they made Tang and that they made Velcro. That's usually where they go, which is interesting because then I say, well, everyone says, hey, but you didn't really get that from space. And they said, yeah, but because we went to space, we developed these technologies. And there's a few others which are not worth mentioning. None of them are that interesting. So they have made no discoveries that we can take home that they could tout and say, look at this. Without this, where would we be? Nope, there's not that. And then there's even the technologies that they created to go into space. Do you see that doesn't justify going into space? Just because they made technologies spin-offs of going into space. So they have no benefit, and all they're doing is burning up money. And then even if they fail, they just remember Emperor Nero, he had a crowd of people that he trained. He had 3 layers of people. He had different sounds that they would have to make, and he orchestrated the cheers for him. That's right. It was very intricate, and these people worked for him full time, and there was about like 150 of them or something, and they followed him around everywhere he went. But that was their job, to applaud. And they not just that, they had a specific. It was like an orchestration of applause. So there's nothing like it ever. So down in Texas, they just have carte blanche. They just let them do whatever they want, because as long as they pay off those people, they pay off the man in the wheelchair, you get everything, you know. That's all you got to do. Just make sure you get the money to the man with the dead eyes. There's this guy there that has an eye that doesn't even, it's a real eye, but there's this one guy that runs Texas, and he's a dead-eyed monster. And so you go there and you just give him the money, and then you can do whatever you want in Texas. That's why the power grid failed and a lot of people died, and no one did anything about it or cared, because that's how it is in that place. It's a slave state, apparently. It's still a slave state. It maintained its slave state status, but it converted everyone into slaves. All the population there is a slave. It's possible that the whole country just dumps their people there, but then you don't want to blame the people for this. This was totally, you can't blame the people because there's no democracy there. It's a complete fascist state. And so they let this character come there, launches, burn up money that gets nothing and does nothing for anyone. And then the rocket goes up and it blows up, and you just see him applauding like there was a Hail Mary pass at the end of a game and they won. And then you think, oh, well, someone's going to mention that, but they don't, because they don't have real coverage of it. No one can really cover these events. In order to have access, you have to have maintained a very serious lack of understanding or awareness. And you have to become an apologist for these events, these experiments that produce nothing. They're not entertaining. They're not interesting in any way. And then they try to make them interesting. It's possible that the ones who are trying to make it interesting just get a payment. There's some kind of a payback system. So, payment system. It makes sense. It's like a commercial. If you just, you'll see them. Well, they'll talk about the weights of everything. They'll talk about the masses and they go into a scientific rigmarole, which is great for almost no one. The only people who enjoy science would appreciate that. The average people don't understand what's being said. They're being talked over, and it has nothing for the people. This has nothing for the people, and what's even going on? I mean, I think it raises ethical concerns because we don't really know what goes on in space. So we should have to have inspectors on these missions, inspecting what's going on, and they can report back to us. Because at this point, it's just burning money. They're just having the right to burn money, and then the ship blows up. All they have to do is blow it up, and then they never really had to make it, did they? Just make something that rings up in the sky and blows up, and then applaud. That's where you're at today. That's capitalism. You want to know what capitalism is? You make a shell of a ship, you shoot it into the sky, and you blow it up, and then you have 3,800 people in a room applaud like fools, like complete fools. Anyone in that room that was doing, I mean, they weren't just applauding in a regular way. It was clear that it was all orchestrated. No one applauds that way. You could watch a show by Robin Williams. You could be today, right now, and people wouldn't applaud that much. It was fake, it was insincere, and the space missions are fake. And they produce nothing for society. And whether we keep doing them as a spectacle is, if some people, it's just like there's some spectacles that are not worth anything, but people still watch them. So just give them fireworks. I mean, in the future, just give them a ringer. You don't even have to blow it up. Just shoot it so far up they can't see it anymore. And then say, yeah, it went to space. And then no one knows if it goes to space. No one can verify that anything went to space. When the moon landing, people don't believe the moon landing happened, but, well, maybe it did. But I know that when they showed it on TV, they acted like it was live, but it was like some kind of a simulated footage of it going up. And it was clear that they could not have filmed. It was like filming it going to the moon, as if there was a camera rocket ahead of it, just with the camera on it, just filming the rocket itself. But of course, you could see it was a simulated. And then it doesn't say anywhere on there that it was simulated, though. So if you watch the broadcast today, which you can watch what the broadcast was, you'll see it's fake. So that may be why people think it's fake, just because they try to make it more interesting than it is. It's not interesting. It's more interesting to tell a story about someone going to the moon than it is to actually go to the moon. And that is because there's not enough access. It's like temperature. And the end of the day, you can't experience space unless a lot of people can experience it. If only a few people have experienced it, for all we know, it's a terrible experience, and they're just not saying anything because it's so not a unique experience. But at what point will they go there and say, well, we went here a lot, we can bring some rocks back, I guess. Maybe we'll find some shiny rocks. They're like, yeah, we could find shiny, cool rocks. But at what point are they going to say, well, we have those on Earth too, though. We have those already on Earth. We have more than we need. We have more shiny rocks than we'll ever need. So why would we be going into space? Because bullshit. I call bullshit. Because they stole the money. Those people are just burning up the money. I said it. I told the truth. No one wants to admit it. But no one can verify that they go to space. Even if they went to the moon, you could assume maybe they did go to the moon. Maybe they threw it all together and said, we can go to the moon at least once. The question is whether you should go, and at what point will it become boring? Well, I suppose if they find the vehicle that gets us all thinking about the moon, I'll believe it. But until I see it, I won't. I won't believe that there's any vehicle up there for it's calling us to go there. And what I mean by vehicle is something that makes it worthwhile. An actual thing that makes it not just moon rocks, something that's different that we've never seen before. That brings home the bacon. Bring home the bacon. And to quit lying about it. Quit blowing up ships and applauding it. What an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment. What an embarrassment. That's embarrassing. Anyone who did that, I would be shocked and embarrassed if I was part of a project where we had to applaud. Okay. Where people were made to applaud. That's like, what if there was a sign at the show right here and everyone had to applaud? No. I don't approve of it, and I don't approve of that message. That's all I have to say about that. Are you tired of dealing with troublesome elephants? Do you have one too many pachyderms causing chaos in your life? Well, listen up. Because We Buy Elephants is here to rescue you from the jungle of your problems. That's right, folks. We Buy Elephants is your one-stop solution for all your elephant selling needs. Whether you've got a dowdy mess of an elephant, or one that just won't quit pooping, we're here to help. Yep, they sure do poop. But don't you worry, at We Buy Elephants, we'll take those messy mammoths off your hands and find them a lovely new home where they can poop, pee, throw up, and do whatever else elephants do in peace. So why not give us a call today at 1-866-ELEFANTS. That's 1-866-ELEFANTS. And be sure to ask about our special offer. For every elephant you sell us, you give us one free. Yes, you heard that right. It's our you sell one, we get one free deal. Because at We Buy Elephants, we believe in spreading the joy of elephant ownership, one trunk at a time. Don't wait. Call us today and let We Buy Elephants turn your elephant woes into a thing of the past. We're standing by, ready to make a deal. Remember, when it comes to elephants, we buy elephants. At We Buy Elephants, here's the thing. We take all the elephants you bring. First time I saw a disco ball, I'd never seen it. This is just a sphere with mirrors. It was just a mirrored, I said, look at that mirrored sphere. I was like, is those mirrors on that? I was looking at it and I was like, what the heck is that? It's real, it's a disco ball. Everyone's like, that's a disco ball. I was like, yeah, that really doesn't describe it though, because that doesn't help me. But then I just was like, you know what? Somebody should get a spotlight or something and just point it right at that thing. And then here's the kicker. Let's make it spin. If you could make it spin and then you put spotlights from all different angles on it, you won't believe what'll happen, I don't think. Try that. Have you tried that? And they're like, no one has ever tried that before. No one has ever You were a prodigy. You must be a prodigy. We just used to just hang those there statically without spin and keep them out of the lights, because when the lights hit them, it would send light everywhere. Rays of light would go everywhere. But this idea of yours to put light on it and make it spin, I think that we should try that. So then they tried it during the national anthem. I was like, hey, what's that song they always play? Why do they always play that? Who is that song by? Who is that song by, so I can go buy the single? I've never bought a single. I never bought a single in my life. I always bought the whole record. Come on. I want the whole record. I don't want just one song. It's only maybe 2 songs usually. I don't want that. Why do they call it a single if there's 2 songs? Bullshit. I call it bullshit. It's a double. They should call it a double. Ha! Let's go back in time and fix that, because they don't go back in time because, okay, that doesn't go well now. No one understands that. People that are too old to understand it, they don't remember anything. And people that are young don't know anything about it. We used to have cassette tapes. You ever have your tape player eat your cassette? That's right. That happened. Your tape player would eat your tape. It happened all the time. It was a common occurrence. It was an epidemic, a crisis. It happened right after Reagan started, so I don't know if there's a connection, but there was a rash of tape players eating tapes willy-nilly. A VHS will eat a tape, but rarely these days. They've become tame. A VHS these days has gotten tamed down. But back then, a tape player, a cassette player, it was wild. You couldn't stop it. No one could stop it. You could pause it. if you wanted to rewind the tape back then, you had to flip it and push fast forward. That's the level of diabolical that these wild machines came out, and they would eat your tape, your best tape, because it was the one that you played the most. Ironically, the one that you liked the most would end up being the victim. As it was some kind of sick, twisted. It was sick and twisted. Literally. It was twisted. Twisted Sister. That was a joke one of my aunts made because my cousin came and told her that well, it was a big thing about her tape got ate. And she said my Twisted Sister tape got ate. And she said, well, now it's Twisted Sister. She did. That was enough for her. That was enough of a that's where I guess that's where I get the skill of joke telling. That's right. The same aunt, which we called them aunts. The same aunt, and we called them aunts. She gave me a present because I was going to Texas A&M, and what it was, all it was a Ziploc bag, and inside of which was just, it was a gag. I don't want to even tell it because then it'll sound like I'm telling it. I'm not going to tell it. Well, okay, it was a washer, and it was like for a bolt washer, like a washer. You probably don't even know what that is. See? And then the other thing was a clothespin, and they're glued together. And so I guess it's like a carrot top. It's a carrot top prop, but it's real little. Carrot top props at least are big. This was a tiny little thing, and this is my present for going to college. The first one to go to college in the family. This is what I get from them, a gag. That's an Aggie washer and dryer. That's the punchline for that. Now, that's not a punchline from my point of view. That was a punchline in my face. Screw you, they said. Can you imagine if I had any relative of mine that went to college, like before, I would give them a lot of stuff before they got there, and it wouldn't be a gag. You get a gag. What if what are they gonna get? I don't know. I can't make jokes about it. It makes me so mad. I guess if I had went to medical school, I don't know what kind of. See, I can't recraft the jokes. I can't recraft those jokes to make jokes about the jokes, because here's why. They're so bad. That is so bad. They gave me a bag and it was a gag. I was going to college. They could have had money in it. And I'm not one to complain. I didn't expect to get anything. I would have been more upset if I had got nothing. But, well, I guess, okay, well, in this case, it was a strange thing. I was like, it was really an insult gift. I had never expected to get that from the family, but maybe they thought it was really funny, though. Can you imagine? It's possible that it was really funny to them, so it was probably funny to her, and she was just trying to share that level of Aggie humor with me, to make fun of my college that I was going to say, oh yeah, remember that's the college that everyone makes fun of the people who go there for being stupid. That's where all the anti-intellectuals say everyone who goes there is stupid. Oh, that's the place where working class people who have no education due to their own fault or because of society, they say everyone goes there and then they're stupid. Oh, Aggies are stupid, right? Remember that? Aggies are stupid. How many Aggies does it take? Probably a lot, because they're so stupid. How many anything, whatever. Knock, knock, who's there? An Aggie, and get ready. because you don't let them build anything. Hey, Aggies never lie, cheat, or steal. So you're telling me I can't lie? Yeah. Ah, okay. So what else was it? Aggies never lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. So I'm like, you're telling me I can't even tolerate my own family? So then they're just making fun of us all the time. They're like, Aggies are so stupid. They're like the stupidest one. So 3 people go, okay, yeah. A Texas Tech person, okay, a Baylor person, and an Aggie. Da da da. And the Aggie does something completely different from what everyone else does. Everything real what you would expect, but then the Aggie does something completely asinine. One time I locked a fence. I was instructed. Yeah, I wish we were Wolverines or something. But then I bet that has its own drawbacks. There's no good answer for that. If you go to college, they're going to say you're stupid. When you come back, they're going to say, "Oh, you think you're smarter than me now." Cuz you are. You're smarter than them now. But you're not just a little bit smarter. You're like way more smarter than you expected to be than them. You're so much smarter than them if you spent 4 or 5 years, even at an undergraduate. I mean, if you go further than that, you're like so much smarter than those people. You can't believe it, and it's unreal. It's so unreal they don't acknowledge it. Maybe that's what they need to teach you. They never taught me that. I thought everyone was gonna come to terms with everything. I thought if I had awareness of it, then somehow it would pass. And I don't have that much, but at least I had some, and I felt that it could easily be transferred. Like one of them is that you don't realize it, but a college is like, it's not a thing. It's a lot of people, and they're not. That's another thing about it. They're not even that smart. A lot of them. I mean, not that they're smart, but they don't have to have any reasons for what they do. Oh, that's it. You realize that it's not something that everyone follows every guideline and no. There's a set of people, and they don't have to have reasons for what they do. I mean, there'd be no other way to have it, though. Maybe. But once you have it, you're not going to get rid of it. Like, that's why they killed Caesar, and then they regretted it, because they were like, well, now what? Now we're going to have another one. Like, they didn't think it ahead. They didn't think ahead on that one. That's why we had, if that happened. But if it didn't, you got to wonder why they would tell the story anyway. That tells us something. Why? They killed him, and then they thought, okay, that's it. I assume, they said, well, they did. They said the people that killed him thought this will fix it. He's gotten too powerful, so we got to kill him. But did they think it ahead? Because if they did, they wouldn't have done it probably, because it led to complete chaos after that. And a lot more people died. But that's because they only had knives, and it was limited. And also it was as long as the wars like that are fought among the classes, if there's a class, they should fight the war among themselves only. And they shouldn't try to commandeer members of other classes. Well, that's where the classes should do. They should deny war everywhere in the whole world. We should make a movement to where civilians don't breed military and vice versa. And so we can have, because since the pretense that there's no classes doesn't lead to a classless society. It leads to a hidden layer of a class society, so that the lower classes are not even aware of that there's a class. But yet we can observe the classes, and then they call them classes too. Well, they call them courses. You take a class and then they call it a course. I was like, they love to call it a course. In fact, they hone it in to you when you're in college. That may be the only one thing you probably learn. The average person doesn't know it. They keep calling it a class. But you're like, no, it's a course. Because class is something totally different that's unrelated. It's like sex. Has all those other meanings. Has class and sex. Sex class. No one teaches sex class. I'm going to sex class. Dang it. I had to take remedial sex class. Fuck. Yeah, I failed the fucking I failed the fucking finals. Fuck. Couldn't fucking do a simple I don't know. Fucking failed fucking sex class. Failed sex class. Fuck. Fucking have to Q drop it. I Q drop sex class. Fuck. Now I have to take it again, but I'm going to take it pass fail this time. Fuck that shit. The stupid prof. Stupid fucking prof. Fucking TA. What was his name? Dingleberry something. Fuck him. It's always a he. Why is it always a he that teaches sex class? Get the fuck out. Fuck you. He's putting a fucking condom on a banana. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. Get out of my face with that. The fucking bullshit. Oh, look, he put a condom on a banana. That's his big Dr. Oz science. That's his big Dr. Oz visualized learning. I said, hey. No, I said, hey, this is sex class. That means we talk about all kinds of sex. We're not focusing on, it seems like you're focusing on safe sex. But that's not the real world. In the real world, sex comes in all colors. Safe sex, unsafe sex. Middle of the road. Average risk sex. 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 That's what he said all day, the whole time. That's what he said after I asked that question. He just said that over and over until it had no meaning, and then that was a big lesson. That's the kind of thing you learn in college. Also, I took a philosophy class, and the teacher said, prove that lawn chair doesn't exist. And I was just like, that lawn chair doesn't exist because that never happened. That's an urban myth. That's an urban myth. It's an urban myth. It's an urban myth. I say Aggies are dumb. There's whole books about it. And and then those are not jokes. I want to say. So you know how you tell Google or somebody, well, let's just say you tell one of these robots today that you want them to tell you a joke. That's not a joke. Those aren't jokes. Those are called puns. That's not jokes. Puns go in jokes, but jokes are not puns. Jokes are not puns. If you think jokes are puns and that's all That's where you start. That's where you start with jokes with puns. But later on, you have to advance. You have to go beyond that. You have to hear conversational jokes like, so me and my friend were going to the store yesterday, and we pulled over at an intersection, and a man walked up to us, and he asked if we knew how to get on the highway. And I said to him, pal, something. I just couldn't. Never finished that one. But someone will finish it. They got enough setups. Someone can finish it. Why do I have to always set up? I gotta do one or the other. I can't do both. I can do one or the other. It's like sex. You can only do one or the other. It's the first rule of sex. Sex class. I missed sex class. I would miss sex class. Skip sex class. You gotta skip sex class. You don't want to be always going to sex class. Seriously, I want to make it clear to you, if there is a thing called sex class, and you're taking it, don't be the eager student. That is a recipe. That is a recipe. Do not be an eager student at sex class. Hang back a little bit. Be an average student in sex class. Don't be overly doing it. Don't become an A student in that class. I got an A+ in sex class. I was the top student in sex class. I made a 100. I got 100 on it. Yeah, I got 100 on the exam. It's not good. That's a bad sign. But don't get a 0 either. Show up sometimes. You got to show up a little bit to sex class. If you don't, you're going to feel worse off than the person who did really well. They both connect. They're the same. It's like they claim fascism and socialism are the same, but they're not. But in this case, they are. This is like that, but it's not that, because in this case, they connect. So that if you're the worst or the best, it's the same in sex class. The worst and the best are as best in the That's how it was. That's how it is. And that's all I have my time for now. I'll have to stop because I have laundry to take care of. They did a study and they found out what birds are saying. What all the birds are saying. They decoded what the birds are saying. And here's what they're saying. All day, all they're doing is just, each one of them is just saying, no, this is how you say it. No, it isn't. This is how you say it. That's why they repeat the same phrases over and over. They're just saying, that's the way you say it. And the other one goes, no, you say it like this. No, you don't. You say it like this. Because they don't know, they can't write it down. They have nowhere to record anything. So there's always a dispute about how it's said, and it keeps changing. Because they forget. But there's always one that's like, no, it's said like this, dang it. Like that. And they go, no, that's not how you do it. You got to go like that. And the other one just says, like something like that. And that's all that's going on. So now they finally solved it. Finally solved the riddle. From time immemorial, humankind has wondered, what are the birds saying? Well, now we know.
Connect me with your manager. Wait 1 minute, I'll be right back. Hear my beats and the music on hold. Mackenzie, who do you think you are? You think you run the phone company? Mackenzie, you think you're so big. How do you live with yourselves? Mackenzie, I am who I say I am. You wanna take my identity? Mackenzie, I want to speak to the manager. This is getting out of control. You know this getting old. I know who I am, but I don't think Mackenzie knows. Mackenzie, think you can stop me? Mackenzie, think you can stop me? Mackenzie, you will never stop me. Mackenzie, think you can stop me? Mackenzie, you will never stop me. I want to speak to the manager. This is getting out of control. You know this getting old. I know who I am, but I don't think Mackenzie knows. Mackenzie, Mackenzie, think you can stop me? Mackenzie, you will never stop me.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of Congress, distinguished guests, and my fellow Americans. As I stand before you today for this State of the Union address, I must admit that things haven't gone exactly as planned. You see, I seem to have misplaced my speech. Despite the best efforts of myself, my staff, and even my spouse, Jeffrey, who embarked on a mission through the Lincoln bedroom, looking through the cushions, and all he found were some top-secret documents that we had to deal with very promptly. So here I am. I did make it, and I wanted to try to recall what I was going to say and just say it. And all I can think about is the events of the life here in the White House. Like the time I lost the keys to the front door, and the Secret Service said, this is serious trouble. If you don't find those keys, we're going to have to replace every knob in the entire building. So I said, hey, you know what? That's fine, because my predecessor, the guy who was here before, I don't really trust that guy. And I'll be glad. Let's change all of them. I said, you know what? I bet he made a copy. So then the Secret Service guy goes, oh, they can't make a copy of those keys. He said, it's a special key. It's got special features. No one can make a copy of it. So I said, well, it doesn't sound that important then, based on what you're telling me. It doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal just because I lost the key. But then I was like, I just put my finger, so I just stuck my hand in my pocket, and there they were. There was the key. So the problem was averted on the first day right there. And then I said, I need someone to get the spokesperson to go make a speech today about the key, And I said, let's do it. Let's make, because we got to get started. And they said, well, they're doing sound testing in the room. I don't think we can do a speech today, And I said, nonsense. We're going to get somebody out there. We got to get them something. And they kept telling me, well, I don't think losing the keys is that important. So maybe we should mention. I said, it's not about losing the keys. It's that we found them. That's what I want to mention. I want to show that on the first day that we had a big success. But those guys, they didn't really understand my vision. I found out after that I really can't listen to them. I just have to do what I want. And that's basically what I have been doing ever since. For the American people, of course. And I'm just, Then there was the saga of the elusive umbrella. Did I leave it in the car? Yes, I did. And how do you retrieve it when it's pouring rain? Well, with a spare umbrella in the closet, of course. But wouldn't you know it, that one was broken. So I improvised with the morning news, sacrificing the sports page to shield me from the downpour. The press that day was not nice to me. And they said, it's rude for you to hit people. I said, look, I hit that reporter because they were talking about my family. Well, I left it at that. I said, hey, you know what? I hit that person because of and then they said, we're going to have to put that in the news. I said, you don't put that in the news. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, you'll find out. So then, yeah, they found out, and they didn't put it in the news. It was never in the news that I punched that guy. Maybe he didn't deserve it, but because it was a mistake. But I think I set the tone that day after that. And so then, okay, so then there was that moment where I could not remember my phone number. I did not know the number to the Oval Office. And people would say, what's the number? Give me the number. And I would say, oh, hold on. I have to go get Gertie Cardo, Chief of Staff. Yeah, he's here. Hey, Gertie. I go up there. I said, oh, Gertie's a woman. Oh, sorry about that, Gertie. Gertie's actually a woman. So she suggested that I use the forehead writing method. But then I said, yeah, but then you have to write it in a mirror image for it to work. And that was pretty funny. Everyone laughed at that. Even so, I thought that was good. I said, I think I'm doing something right finally. So then I got spaghetti sauce on my tie. You know, I dropped a meatball a big meatball, and it landed right on the tie. Thought I avoided it. It bounced off, didn't hit anything else, luckily, but did leave a slight stain on the carpet. So that's someone else's problem. I had to go right to a speech right after eating that spaghetti, so I just took off the tie, clipped it right off, soldiered on, gave them one of the best speeches ever, because you know what? Sometimes no news is good news. What I did is I just went in there and I said, I'm not going to be able to go on because I don't have my tie. They said, you don't need a tie. I said, the president must have a tie, and I don't have my tie, so tell the American people that I'm not going to be here today. And I said, tell the American people that the president decides when and if they decide to speak. Tell them. So do I have to say any more? Is that enough? Oh, you are expecting more? So you're saying the other presidents have gone longer than this? What other presidents went? I don't really watch these things. Which presidents went longer than 5 or 6 minutes? Why would you keep going on with one of these? You want me to talk about other countries or some issues? There's 50 states. Every one of them has differences. There's also a lot of cities, and they all do different things. And we have to kind of work together with them. And then there's corporations that work in each one of these cities and states. And also, there's a state government that is always trying to get as much money as it can from the federal government so that it can do its programs. Part of the deal is the companies want the money so they can get it for their company. And they hire somebody to come here and advocate for it. And then I have to listen to them. They come to my office and they say that, well, my project is really great for me and for you. And I said, well, how is it great for me? And they say, well, because it's going to bring in the votes. I said, is it going to bring in the votes? Or are you're going to tell me it brings in the votes. You're going to go tell people to vote based on that. But does that really bring in the votes? I said, just because I give you money for your district. I said, no, you don't get any money for your district. I told them all, no, you don't get any money. And then they said, look, you're going to have to call all day long and email people all day that you need money for your campaign. I said, I'm not going to do that. They said, well, then you're no way you can ever win again. So I said, well, in that case, email every day and tell them to send $10,000 right now or else. And he said, what do you mean? I said, get an email that goes to all the top executives that want money for their district and say, right now you send me $10,000 right this instant or else you're off the list. And whoever doesn't get on the list, we apply it. Whoever gave the $10,000, we take the money and we do whatever we want with it. That's my money. That's how it works. It's my money. And that's a good thing, though, because I made them pay. And now, whoever didn't pay, whoever was like not willing to pay just $10,000, which is nothing, kind of weeds them out. And then in the next phase, we say, oh, now it's $50,000, etc. So we keep doing that, and we'll raise more than enough money for a campaign. I said, I don't understand. But they said, no, you have to constantly tell people to send you $1. I said, that doesn't sound like the way to do it. I don't think. What person is giving them $1? You don't have $1 to give. What are you giving dollars to those people for? You don't have any money. Your money is for your life, dear people, all workers. Your money that you get is for no one else but you. You're not supposed to give it to anybody except your own family and to take care of your own stuff. If charity is a scam, don't give to charity. Don't pay taxes, I said. We don't need to have taxes anymore because I'm going to collect them in my own way. I said, I don't need people to pay taxes. They said, you can't do that. That's illegal. I said, well, nothing's illegal now because I'm the president. They said, no, you can't because of illegal. I said, anything that was illegal that I did, I make it not illegal anymore. I'm the president, right? So they said, you have to let her do it. So I said, okay. There's nothing they could do about it. And the media is on my side. That's the other thing I like, because a lot of the presidents in the past were always complaining about the media. Who is them, which is a funny thing. The media, who's given them such a hard time all the time, never happened. But they have to act like they do. They clamor. The media will clamor to get attacked by the president, so they could prove that they're dissenting against the president's. Well, that never happened. They never actually pushed back on anything important. So I said, there's no need for that. Just tell the companies. All they have to do, each company too, and that means everyone. So even the small companies could benefit. They just pay $10,000. The same. Everybody pays the same. So everybody's at the same table. Of course, a lot of them. In fact, only 10% of the people paid. So if you think about that, that proves that it's going to work, because now the next phase they're going to have to pay $50,000. They're all going to be paying. Eventually, they're all going to pay. So every month I'm going to double it, or I'm going to multiply it by 5 or something, and then at a certain point, every company is going to agree, and then I'll have everyone's consent. I'll say, okay, now I have every company's consent, and whatever they paid, they have to pay that every year. That's right. I'll add that at the end. I won't tell them that right away, but I'll tell them that. That's what you have to pay every year now. But it goes directly to me. So there's no bureaucracy. I eliminated the bureaucracy of government. I did it because of all the trouble they gave me over those keys. Just to be honest, all of this started because of those keys. The Secret Service just wouldn't let go of it. I mean, I misplaced the keys for no longer than 72 hours. They were talking about how we had to alert the media. I told them, no, you're not telling anybody about this. And they're telling me all the risks associated to it. And I said, that's what I said. This is ridiculous. I said, who's the president? Me or them? So at that point, I took care of those guys. That's why I remember there was that situation about the 5th day of office where a lot of people ended up facing justice. We announced it at a brief meeting. It wasn't publicized. But I think that covers it. That's about the State of the Union at this point. So now I'll take your questions. Oh, you don't do questions? Cardo? Do I just leave now or what? Cardo says, yeah. All right, that's my time. Say God America. Say God America. Say God America. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. The proceeds from this week's broadcast of the Cruel and Unusual Sit-Down podcast will be donated to benefit one of the following charitable causes. to the Foundation for Support of the People Who Are Still Waiting for Self-Driving Cars. Keep waiting. Dit, 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 dit. Hello, ba, ba, ba. Check 1, 2, check, check, check. Get a noise feed. Clap the clapper. All right. So, were you killed by a ghost in a video game? Are you around Sphere who was annihilated by a ghost? Call the law offices of Blinky and Blinky today. And we'll fix it. We have lawyers standing by. Okay, they just stand there. They're not very bright. They're not very bright. Do you want to improve your credit score? Just follow our simple advice, and we guarantee you that your credit score will rise by a certain amount. And unlike others who try to charge you for this advice and make you wait for 6 to 8 weeks delivery, that is not what we are all about. We are going to just tell you outright what you can do to improve your credit score. That's right. Here is what you do. Always pay off all of your debt fast. There you have it. The perfect advice. The ultimate advice. The ultimate advice for changing the arbitrary number that banks assign to your name. The arbitrary number that banks just hand you. That banks calculate out for you. They all get together. They say, hey, let's put all that stuff in the same place and then we can make a number out of every name. Yeah, we'll get another number out of every name. Hey, we need another number out of every name. I know we have how much money they have, and we have their social security number, and their date of birth, and their driver's license numbers. But now, let's calculate how much likely they are to pay what we think they are to pay money based on what they've done before, which is not based on anything. Because your financial situation is not based on anything. It's not based on your behavior. It is not based on your behavior. Yeah, your credit score isn't based on your behavior. It's based on socioeconomics. Socioeconomics. Therefore, it's fake. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. Don't worry about it. Let it go. Let it go. Let your credit score go. And just steal money from the bank. There's a lot of ways to steal money. You could use gift cards, fraudulent gift cards, fraudulent credit cards, fraudulent accounts, fraudulent tabs at a bar. You can go to a bar and then start buying a man drinks. Or let's say you go to a bar and you just find 2 guys and say, hey guys, you're going to party with me tonight. Ha ha ha. And they just start say, whatever you want, I'm buying it, you know. And then make sure they buy the most expensive drinks in the bar too. Try to get them. And then say, I'm buying, it don't matter. And they're like, are you sure? Because it's been a lot. You raise it up, raise the tab, And then when they run a credit card, of course, you don't have any money on that credit. You don't have anything on it. So then you just look at them like, hey, guys, you drank almost all that beer. What? You drank most of that? Goodness. You're the guys who drank most. Why were y'all drinking so darn much? Damn. You took advantage of me because I was just trying to have a good time. But you guys are drinking the most expensive. Look at this. You're drinking the most expensive drink, the margarita. So that's when they'll pay, and then you get a little bit of a kickback from the bar owner. It's a little system I arranged. I worked it out. Then you just get a little kickback. Well, you should get half, but they don't want to. You usually have. All right, that's it. You just got to get half. I don't want to belabor the point. And then you don't have to worry about your credit score. Well, that will improve your credit score if you keep doing that, because you could just keep paying that every time you grift money. Every time you do one of these, it's not really illegal. And also, look at it. It's not even immoral. I mean, those guys, they wanted to drink. Actually, this happened to me. So someone did this to me. These guys started buying me drinks. And they said, yeah, we don't care. And then at the end of the night, they're like, oh, we can't pay. And then they're like they were making threats at me. I said, well, they locked the bar up too. Like they weren't going to let me go. They thought they were real smart. They didn't know how. So I was like, I guess I'm just going to get the gun out of my purse now. Oh, here it is. Kablooey, real quick. You always, when you shoot a bartender that just robbed you, don't stick the gun out. You gotta keep that gun on your hip. A bartender knows how to get a gun. He'll grab your gun if you point it at him. Always use a snub nose. Make sure it's loud. The louder the better, I say. Those two guys, they ran off as soon as they heard the first shot. So, but those are the breaks, kid. That's what I said. Hey, those are the breaks. So, just remember that part too if you're doing that. Be sure to don't ever underestimate your opponent. The bank. The bank is run by Germans. The Germans have all the money, and they run all of show business. The Germans think they're better than us because to them their language seems more complex. But it isn't. It isn't more complex. If you knew German, it's easy. Once you know German, once you know the lingua. All right, yeah. The Deutsch. Yeah, see, I spoke language. I don't like people that. Well, here's what I don't like. Let me tell you what I don't like. I think you can speak in whatever language you like. But if you're speaking in English and you're an American, well, let's say you're, okay, look. Of course, you can say whatever you want. But here's what I'm talking about. Try to understand what I'm talking about before you jump to. When people use, like they say adios, but they're English. They're white. They're from the whitest neighborhood in the block. They've never met a person of color their whole life. But they say adios. And they say sayonara. They might even say hola, which is not a proper way to do it anyway. But aloha, you could at least appreciate. It's kind of weird how hola and aloha are kind of similar. Shalom, I guess shalom would be okay. If they used shalom, I wouldn't feel as bad. At least I feel like, well, okay, it's reaching out farther. But just saying adios. You'll get this if you go on a tour anywhere in Texas. You go anywhere in Texas on some tour of like dinosaur tracks or something. Oh, look at the dinosaurs stepped here 1,000,000,000,000 years ago. Well, maybe it was 50 million years ago. A dinosaur stepped here 50 million years ago. Look, and it's okay. And then they go, okay, that's our tour. Now, adios. They don't say that, but they say adios. And then they say, vaya con Dios. Go with God. Go with God. Hey, I thought this was a secular tour. Why all of the religion? They got to codify religion. We need to have the 10 Commandments up there. Okay, can we put them up there in their original tongue? You're going to put them in a translation? You're just going to translate them? Well, that'll hardly do. Those were put in their original tongue for a reason. Why do you think God spoke in Hebrew? Why? Because it was important. You can't translate that to another lingua. All right. Yeah, you can't do that. Put the 10 Commandments up. Hey, let's put the 10 Commandments up. I heard a guy say, well, they took them down, and then, because they violated the law, and then somebody said, which is ironic for the law to, hey, the law of ancient times violates the new law. All right, so the law, which was the 10 Commandments, first of all, there's one thing. Well, we always have a first of all, and it is this. The 10 Commandments are part of 300 and something there's maybe 6, I don't know the number, but there's a large number of laws. And the first 10 are just, that's what they call them, the 10. It's not even called the 10 Commandments. So ironically, they're fighting to put something up that doesn't even exist, because there's no such thing as 10 Commandments. And then they say it's important, something that doesn't exist. And then there's an irony that everyone can see. Putting up those 10 Commandments in a school is not going to make a difference. Kids are not suddenly going to stop stealing because of that. Oh, it's on the big board. You can't steal? Okay. I can't covet? Well, I was going to covet my neighbor's ass, but okay. Na 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 na. So, I guess the people back then were just stupid, and now they're stupider. Because it looks like, it was like show business. Somebody made up a story, and they said, this is a neat story because it really tricks people into believing it, and then they follow it. And they're like, yeah, that's I like that concept. But I think everyone understood it at the time. Now they don't. Now they think it was like the inerrant word of Skyman. The inerrant word of God. Well, the inerrant word of God probably wouldn't need to be translated. There's a lot of things about it, but that's just the beginning, so there's no reason to discuss it. If you think it is, there's really nothing that can be said. So to those people who you'll hear people say that to you, and you can't really argue with them. All you have to do is just say, well, then, according to the Bible, it says we can eat piss and shit together. So when are we going to have a piss and shit dinner? Because it says right in the inerrant word of the Bible that, did we not sit and eat shit and piss together? There is a precedent for or for that, whatever that is, the name of that, where people eat crap. Literally, people eat crap. It's not a thing. People eat. It's not. It's a thing that happens. People eat feces. People eat feces. And you can't put them down for it, because it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. They need to put it in the tin. They need to put it up on the board at the school. I don't understand why they don't put that up. I don't understand why they don't put that up at the high school. Hey, kids, did you know the Bible encourages you to eat shit and piss with your friends? It's a big, fun experience. You can learn a lot. Eating your own poop gives you visions. But they don't want you to know the liberals are trying to change this country. Those liberals, they're trying to change the word of God to say that you don't gotta eat shit and piss. Bullshit, motherfucker. You better eat that shit, bitch. You better eat that shit, bitch. Eat some shit and piss. Right now, it says so. That's what it says in the Bible. Did we not eat shit and piss together? How could you treat me this way? And the other person's got it. It was like, oh, you're right, you're right. We ate all that shit and piss together that time. All right, yeah. Part of the Bible. 10 Commandments aren't going to make kids stop anything that they do. I don't know what they do. They probably don't do much. They probably just disrespect the teachers because the teachers are full of shit. Probably what's going on. And they don't know enough. The teachers don't know enough. They just expect everyone to follow them. They don't have to know, they don't have to know anything, because that's what happened to them. They were taught by poor leaders, Nazis, who took over the country. The insurgency. People that were educated in the 50s were educated by the fascist insurgency. That's why you have the strange things that they say. They don't even make sense. And then there was a reaction to that. So, but even that reaction was tainted with it. Just tainted and didn't even understand. And I can tell you this because everything that the Nazis wanted, that's what they got here. So the Nazis didn't like communism. The Nazis were anti-communist. Well, anti-communism big time in America. All over the place. The whole time. So why couldn't we at least get on board with them? Get on board with it. Say, hey, you know what? We're on your side as long as, tone it down on some other issues, right? We could have helped, maybe. We could have been the voice of reason among the Nazis. Maybe they wouldn't have done so bad and everyone would have loved them. Well, at least they didn't do all the horrible things they would have done. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's not right, but that's what we're led to believe. They wanted everything here, everything in the U.S. is like a fascist dream. So I guess if they didn't win the war, our goal should be to lose wars, because then our whole culture will end up taking over the place that we lost to. So we should fight a war with India, lose it, and then pretty soon India will be doing American things. They'll be eating macaroni and cheese, probably. So all we got to do is get in a war with India, lose it, and then we'll be looking at people in New Delhi. It's one of the easiest Indian cities to remember. But there's a lot of great cities there. I've never been to India. It looks great. Looks like a lot of great things are going on. It's old. It has an old style. Oh, it's old world. It's the old world. Yeah, how did the U.S. think they were going to defeat these countries, these nations that have been here much longer, at least 100 years longer or more? Plus, they had already had a culture there for thousands of years. And then the U.S. thought, oh yeah, we can stand up to these guys. Well, they didn't really stand up to them, of course, because they didn't really help out with the Jewish problems. The U.S. refused to take Jews. Took a small number of them. And then there's the issue where Roosevelt just started laughing when they informed him about intelligence related to Nazi internment camps, the death camps. Places like Auschwitz, where millions of people were killed. And so they're telling Roosevelt about it for the first time, and he just starts laughing. Yeah, so what do we know? What do we don't know? Well, maybe they were all insane. It looks like it. It looks like they didn't know what we know today. And that is that anti-communism is fascism. Whenever someone's talking about communism, they're just using a ghost term. And they're talking about anyone that opposes them. That's what that term means. Anyone that disagrees with their idea that they should have complete power. It's a return of the monarchy, right? They're trying to rebuild the monarchy, and this is what it looks like. It's kind of ugly and it's gross in a way. It's kind of gross. But don't worry, because a fascist doesn't understand. Yeah, don't do drugs. Don't be doing drugs. Don't go out and buy drugs and then do them. Don't have drugs delivered. Don't do drugs, because suppose Yahweh comes to you and begins to speak to you and to give you a message for all of mankind. Now think about that, all of mankind, not just yourself. You're sitting there stoned out of your mind, taking bath salts, and then the Lord God Elohim appears before you, the God of Moses himself, delivers a message that's for all of mankind, okay? So now you go away from that. Hopefully you wrote it down. But then you're going to be questioning whether or not you heard God, or was it because of the drugs? You might say, was it because of the drugs? What if you started asking the question and saying, was it because of all the bath salts that I took? Or was it a real experience? So now you might have misgivings about informing all of mankind, about a message that was sent from God. See, that's the only reason why I say that you should not take bath salts. So, all right. But I think in that scenario, there probably would be better ways of dealing with that. I'm pretty sure God would deliver the message to you, and then he would say, I know you were high when I came. That's why, don't worry about that. That's not, yeah, this isn't part of the trip. He could probably, I bet you you would go, he'd put God's the type of person that if he was delivering a message for all of mankind and the person he was delivering it to happened to be high on bath salts, he would come down and he would say, hey you. And you'd be like, what, me? Right? You sure you're talking to me? Yeah, you should, I hope. I hope you're not arrogant and you're like, of course you're talking to me. How arrogant when God's talking and you assume he's talking to you. What if he's talking to someone else? You ever think about that? Unless he calls you by name, and then that's different. What if it's your secret name? Then you know. But God is a type, if he gives you a message, he will, he'll say, okay, come walk with me, and then you'll go along, and you'll be walking along like in a park, and then you'll look down and you'll see a tennis ball, and you'll pick it up, a brand new tennis ball. It looks like somebody just left it there too, like it's a brand new tennis ball. So and those real green, shiny. So you pick it up, and you're walking along with God, and he delivers a message to all of mankind. And God's the type that when you return back into your body or whatever, back into your mind or wherever you went, so at that point you'll be holding that tennis ball, just so you know that it wasn't the trip. It wasn't the trip on the bath salts that led to the vision. But who knows, maybe the bath salts were there to open the gates. There could have been gates that had to be opened, seals. Maybe that's what they're talking about, seals. They're always talking about those seals. John of Patmos always said, watch out for those seals, because once those things go, you're doomed. You're doomed. John of Patmos was real interesting in that. said seals and seals, and then so what is it? There's seals, and then there's So I guess that's like letters being opened, but no, I think it's bath salts opening awareness in the brains, or maybe it's not even that. It's other substances. Maybe that's just one aspect. So once the brain gets opened to a certain degree, then you can. But you better watch out because there's nothing to joke about here because if you open up the wrong doors, then you're going to unleash the trumpets. And there's like bowls too, which apparently have like lead and stuff in them. So that's why I was like being cautious. Don't open those gates. The seals, that is. They're seals. They're sealed up for a reason. You open those seals, you're going to let in more than you bargained for, pal. I'm not going to watch that happen again. But you know because you have the tennis ball. And that was part of it. And that's how you know that it was true. That's how you know everything I said was true because of the tennis ball. Because you're holding the tennis ball. What if you walk outside right now? Anyone that walks outside right now and sees a tennis ball is going to be literally inspired. And to you I say, you are the chosen among your brethren. You will be commanded to lead among them. But in the time of crisis, when the bad evildoers try to undo what you tried, you will find that there is a tennis ball, and the tennis ball will bounce to the east on the day of the commandment of the judgment. And that way, you know because of the tennis ball. I think whoever invented tennis kind of was just doing the most basic thing, just hitting something back and forth. And they kind of made it more elaborate. I think that at first they were just throwing something back and forth. And then they said, hey, what if we just hit it? Like they were just throwing a rock back and forth. Hey, let's throw the rock back and forth. And they did that for like a week. Or no, they probably did that for 200 years. And then they said, hey, now let's hit it. Let's hit it with our hand and see if we could. And then it just kept on. I mean, I don't know what happened after that, but eventually they bring in sticks. They make the ball a little bit more bouncy. And then you get tennis ball, which has to be a certain color too. The most brightest color. Well, it's the most visible color. Lime green. The best color. Going up and down, you can hear the angel, you can hear the sound going up and down. Pretty simple. Oh, and I guess it makes sense that people mock people who talk to God because they're jealous. But I think the people who talk to God probably can understand that jealousy. Well, hopefully they can. I hope they don't take it to heart, but yeah, we're going to resent you. I think it would be inhuman not to resent someone who gets a message all the way from God, got to be chosen, and it's clearly a random choice. It's a lottery. God runs a lottery to decide who he's going to deliver the message to. There's so much at stake. This isn't like your uncle is the principal of the high school, so you make valedictorian because you have different last names. There's everything like that. That's why they're called bath salts. It's because you're supposed to baptize yourself with them before you talk to the gods. But remember, you can't talk to the gods because they do not exist. So there were, a long time ago, some people who apparently they thought were dead, and then they thought that maybe they didn't, that they had come back, that they had died and then came back. And so then they assumed, oh, that means that they can't die. Oh, that means they can't die. And then they said, oh, there's people that they can't die. And then they said, oh yeah, who are they? And they said, oh, and then they went from there. They went from that point. Tenes certas contrabal. Are you actually bored? Is it late and all your friends are out having a good time while you're stuck at home being introverted? Did you know you have options and you can try out new things? You can look for anything you want, and if you find it, why, you can have it. So that is the concept of Dial-A-Dick. That's right, you heard right, Dial-A-Dick. You dial the phone and we connect you with a dick. It is a legal dick and it is a legitimate dick. You see, our dicks are all trained at the Dick College, and they know how to do their jobs because they are professional dicks. At Dial-A-Dick, you get what you get, and that's a good dick. We are talking about private eyes or private investigators. If you're bored and alone, you might have extra money, and you could hire a private dick to go snooping around anywhere just for kicks. Dial-A-Dick just for kicks. Dial-A-Dick just for kicks. You can get a dick just for kicks. Dial-A-Dick, where investigations and spontaneity interact. Be sure to ask about our buy one dick, get one manly escort free special for a limited time only. Pew, pew. This has been the Cruel and Unusual Sit-Down Podcast. Coming to you weekdays at 11. Hey YouTube, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe.